Well, we hope that you're enjoying your summer and that you're ready to start the school year back. But before you do, for the month of August, we're still in our Community Impact Series. And today we're talking with the City Councilwoman out of Virginia Beach, doing great things in the community and working for you. It's Stay the Water. I'm your host, Dr. Eric LaVille. We'll be right back with Councilwoman Jennifer Rouse. Welcome back. It's Stay the Water. I'm your host, Dr. Eric LaVille. As always, we'd like to thank you for joining us on this beautiful Sunday here in Hampton Roads and where you're listening to us across the country and also across the world. I know that we just had a little tropical storm come through here in our area, and it got a lot of things soaking wet, but we hope that all is well, that you weren't harmed, and everyone is safe and you're drying out from the weather. For all those that were impacted, our prayers and thoughts are with you. As always, we'd like to thank our supporters, you, the listeners, for joining us and supporting us every Sunday as we broadcast live from the campus of the Norfolk State University, home of the Spartan Nations, from none other than WNSB Hot 91, the soul of VA. So look, let's get right to it. You know, this series, our Community Impact Series that I hold every year during the summer, I love to highlight organizations, groups, and people that are doing the work in the community on the ground. You know, we talk a lot about public policy here on the show because public policy is the policy that governs our lives. But before public policy, it's about you, the people, on the ground, what's happening in your community. So this year, we're highlighting city council persons across Hampton Roads, all the cities here in Norfolk, Newport News, and now Virginia Beach, discussing the impact that they're making. And we have none other than somebody that is a rock star, that is on the rise, but that's been doing it for a while in the classroom and in the community. We have none other than Jennifer Rouse, Councilwoman for District 10 of the City of Virginia Beach. Councilwoman, good morning to you.
Good morning. Thank you for having me, Dr. Clavel. I appreciate that.
Oh, absolutely. Look, you know, I mentioned, you know, you've been you're a rock star now, you know, in politics. I mean, everywhere you look is you and your husband, my guy, Senator Aaron Rouse, and who's also running for lieutenant governor as well.
That's right. Yeah.
But you guys are all over the place. Tell us, you know, when do you get a moment just to sit and breathe?
Look, I don't know what that is. But we make time for it. So it's turned out that sometimes road trips to Southwest Virginia are date trips. So you just try to, you know, it's important to find rest. So I joke a little bit about it. But this summer, I've been intentional about slowing down a little bit. And City Council, we get a break for about 3 weeks during the summer. So I really try not to overschedule myself, just to really connect with being a human being. Considering all the things that have to be done, and so many people are motivated to do so many things, but at the end of the day, we're only human. So you just have to be intentional about making time, even if it's one Saturday, if it's, you know, an hour here, wherever you can find it, just to be still and reconnect with yourself and breathe.
Absolutely. Listen, like my old pastor used to say, he said, you better pull away before you fall away.
That's right. That's right.
So, you know, you are someone who's born and raised here in the great city of Virginia Beach. Not only that, but you also went to Virginia Wesleyan, earning your degree, your undergraduate degree in English literature, and also a professor. You know, but at the same time, you're, you know, in politics. Why the transition from the classroom to all of a sudden now in city council?
Look, and I just do want to highlight our new VP pick. Tim Walsh is a former educator, and I think, you know, you can't ask for a better public servant than our educators. There's a way of just knowing when you're in a classroom with students, and I teach college students, so I have adult learners, but you're in a classroom with students and you have this captive audience of people where, whether it's 30 students or however many, you get insight into your community. You're hearing from them what their frustrations are, what their hopes are, what their dreams are. And even before I ever thought about politics, so I've been teaching sociology a little over 10 years now. And really for the past maybe 5 years or so, I felt this itch to make sociology more practical than the way I had been teaching it as like an academic discipline in the classroom. because sociology is the scientific study of society. And the most famous public sociologist that America has ever had is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who got his sociology degree from Morehouse, which I know you appreciate, from
Absolutely.
Morehouse. And he was admitted at, age 14 or 15 and graduated with a bachelor's in sociology.
That's right.
And so think about what he was able to do, because he understood that society is not just this naturally occurring thing, but it's a socially produced arrangement. Society is what people make it, and therefore it can change. And if it is not working, people can organize to reorganize society to shape it in a more productive way. And Dr. King just articulated that so well in so many of his writings and so many of his speeches, calling out the dysfunctions in society. So that's my template. And here I am teaching this to my students, and I'm thinking, gosh, so there has to be so much more. Like, I don't only want to tell them what people have done, but I want to show them, here's what you can do with sociology beyond the classroom. And so then in 2018, I met who would become my husband, Aaron Rouse. We actually met voting. So it was a June primary.
Wow.
And I know, and we were the only two people at the polls. I was teaching a summer course, but I went to go vote in the primary on my break. I see this guy, he's the most handsome person I've ever seen, and I was like, I don't even know where you came from, but I came here to vote, so I don't care. I'm going to focus on the business of voting. But then we ended up talking, and he said, oh, yeah, I'm Aaron Rouse. I'm running for city council. And I was thinking, you're really cute. If we end up going on a date, that'd be cool. But what I really thought was, if this doesn't work out, I'm going to have you come talk to my students so they can see someone in the community who's trying to shape the community. And we did end up going on a date, and we did end up getting married, and he did end up winning his seat on city council. And for me, that was my first time being introduced, like, front stage to the work of government. So government is something I taught about. Politics is something I taught about in an abstract, theoretical way. But being married to Aaron and seeing him do the work of governing is the first time I saw it in practice. And I remember thinking, even when he was in office, something in me was kind of scratching in my brain, like, this is really important work. And because of what I think about society, I think it would be really cool to be in a position to make changes that, my decisions shape society, starting at the local level. And so when his term ended, he decided not to run for re-election because he was going to pursue a state Senate seat. I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to go for it. I'm going to try to do it. So what got me in, there was always, I think because of what I teach and the ethic of what I teach, I've been concerned about what's happening in our community. But knowing someone who is actually doing the work of government enabled me to see, it's hard, but not that hard. Meaning, like, you do have to read. They're hard decisions, but to see a normal person do it, I thought, you know what? I don't have to have a PhD from Harvard to run for city council. I can just care about my community and give it a go. And so that's what that was.
Wow. Seeing it in action and making sure that you're a part of it. Not only Virginia Wesleyan, but you also receive your master's in sociology from VCU, Virginia Commonwealth University. And as you mentioned, been in the classroom serving as assistant professor in Tidewater Community College as a sociology professor and department chair for social sciences. You've also been mentioned as and well recognized as a top 40 under 40 here in Hampton Roads. Tell us a little bit about, you say you saw city council in action, but now you're on city council. You're appointed to the Housing Advisory Board, Active Transportation Advisory Committee, Liaison to Minority Business Council, Public Library Board, Atlantic Park Community Development Authority, and so forth and so on. How do you now balance all of these distinct interests of Virginia Beach, and really not just Virginia Beach, because it's a tourist area, but the greater community that's coming into the beach, with also the needs of your district, District 10? Yeah.
So it surprisingly, maybe not surprisingly, I actually find it to be a very easy, natural fit. So I'm thankful that I have a job, because the structure of government, especially the Virginia, government, whether it's the state legislature or it's local city councils, it really doesn't benefit normal people. And by that, I mean, if you work a standard 9-to-5 job, it's going to be very hard to run for office because, for example, we meet every Tuesday. And so that means I need to be off Tuesdays, not only after work hours, but as early as noon to get briefings with my council colleagues about issues that will be coming before us for a vote. And so we're sitting in City Hall and it's 12 o'clock in the afternoon. And we're going to be there until 6 o'clock when the formal session starts. And then the formal session will go on until it ends. And so I have a job, thankfully, that's flexible where I teach my classes and I'm able to arrange my classes around to permit me time to participate in government in this way. But it's also only part-time. So the pay for city council in Virginia Beach is $28,000 a year. The pay for state legislatures is even less. So in the General Assembly, our state legislatures are making, $19,000 and less for really what amounts to full-time work of writing laws and passing bills, or at the local level, voting on ordinances that affect the lives of people. And one of my, observations about that is, yes, I understand wanting to keep the pay low so that people don't go into it for the money, because you don't want corruption in government. You want a clean process. And so if you're running for office, it certainly isn't you're motivated by the money because it's not there in the paycheck. But then also, if you want to encourage people to run, so I just turned 38 years old, and my district is a relatively young district. I represent District 10. The average age is about my age. We're a majority millennial district. And what that means is we're raising kids and we're paying mortgages, and there might be a lot of people like myself who want to run for office, maybe have really great policy positions, could really be a fantastic representative for their community, and then they look at the paycheck and say, I can't afford to do that. So then who are we left with? We're left with people who are retired. We're left with people who are financially independent. We're left with people who are in a financial position where they aren't dependent on this income. It's just something that they're wanting or able to do, or we're left with a government that's run by business owners, and they're coming from that perspective because they have the flexibility. They operate their own business. They're not set by, a certain, by time constraints. So I think all that to say, where do you find the time to do it, right? Like it is a lot of work, just frankly it is. But I have a job that is not only flexible and allowing me to arrange my classes around the work of council, but also what I teach aligns with what I vote on. So, I'm on the Clean Community Commission, the Housing Advisory Board, Public Library, and how all of these areas of our community support the quality of life in Virginia Beach. So I find that while there's it's really taxing on my time, it's not too taxing on my brain because it's all kind of flowing in the same arena. It's all thinking about communities and how it's organized. So I'm thankful I don't have to split my mind too much when I go from I joke, I call TCC the job that pays me, and then city council, that it all kind of flows together. And then, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm definitely enjoying this.
Yes. Okay. So then District 10, it's in the heart of the city of Virginia Beach. And so if you were to look at a map of the city of Virginia Beach, 10 is right in the middle. So I'm surrounded by Districts 1, 3, 2, and 7. And my district, 67% of land use is zoned for housing. So there's not a lot of commercial development in my district. There's not a lot of other activities outside of housing and schools. And of the housing, the majority of housing is organized in planned communities. So a lot of my district, it's organized as HOAs or condos or apartments. So that makes it very interesting as a district representative, because sometimes people will email me about an issue, and then you have to dig into it and you realize, oh, that's actually an HOA issue. So like, for example, the grass isn't cut, or something's going on with this, or something's going on with that. And based on the geography of the issue, the city maybe can get involved or can't. I got emails about trash pickup, and it's like, oh, well, your complex actually has a private company that picks up your trash. The city isn't responsible. So that's something that has to be rerouted. So that's been something that's pretty interesting in terms of navigating the boundaries of, what's the obligation of the city and what's the obligation of the HOA when you're trying to help constituents who have issues or problems. I have a lot of schools in my district. So from elementary to middle, the 2 high schools in my district are Green Run and Lansdowne High School. So I have lots of kids and lots of working families. So when I ran for office, thinking about the dynamics of my district, some of the issues that I ran on were affordable housing, promoting our public education and making sure our schools were fully funded, our public schools were fully funded, and workforce development. And workforce development, because I teach at TCC and all my students are there to get a credential to, find a job where they can take care of themselves and their families, but also knowing that my district, it's a younger district. So it's a lot of people who are working and trying to make ends meet. And so looking at the landscape of the Virginia Beach economy or even the Hampton Roads economy, what can we do to make sure we're providing opportunities that when people want to work and give their best to take care of their families, they can be compensated fairly for it.
Absolutely. It's Stay the Water. I'm your host, Dr. Eric LaVille, and you're joining us for our Community Impact Series. Today, we have with us Councilwoman Jennifer Rouse, who's talking to us about her passion for the community and in the classroom, taking theory into practice and making a difference. The way that you basically took the theory and your experience and put it and made it real to the listeners is absolutely fascinating. So I can tell that your students are definitely love coming to your class and hear your lectures. But it's just not the work on the council, that I know that as city council persons that you do, as you mentioned, it's a part-time job, but really you're doing full-time work. And the full-time work also extends outside of the council district. Outside the council chambers. With that being the case, talk to us about some things that you're doing in District 10 and also across Virginia Beach with some nonprofits that you and your husband are involved in.
Yeah. So one nonprofit I'll mention, and this is the nonprofit I married into. My husband has a nonprofit called Rouse's House, and it prioritizes education. So he's someone who has said in his life that God has blessed him with football talent, and that football talent took him to, from First Colonial to Virginia Tech to the NFL. But what really has kept him going is his foundation in education. And he credits his teachers, he credits his coaches, and a number of adults who supported him through the public education system as creating a foundation for him to say, hey, you're more than a statistic, you're more than your football talent. And he began to have a vision for himself. He never envisioned politics, but he just credits so much of his success to his education and the educators who supported him. So Rouse's House, it's a nonprofit that the mission is to expose youth to educational opportunities, to support them in their pursuit of education. So whether that's, back to school drives where we give back school supplies, or we, celebrate teachers and we might fund a teacher in their classroom. Around the holidays, we've done turkey giveaways and food giveaways for families. So that's one less thing that they have to think about. So in our home, that's something that's passionate for us. But outside of that, something that has been, so I teach sociology, as you know. I teach sociology of the family. And for the last few years, through my lectures, I've become very passionate about workplace policies that either help or hurt working parents, particularly working mothers. So now that I'm in a position to actually shape policy, one of my passion projects for the city of Virginia Beach is identifying solutions, identifying places where as a city we can promote and support affordable childcare and early childhood education. So I've been working with, so I first want to highlight the city of Virginia Beach. In our economic development office, we have a program called Grow Smart. And so your listeners, if you're in Virginia Beach, Google Grow Smart Virginia Beach. And this is an early education initiative where the economic development department, we promote, we help support families in teaching their children early literacy. We provide opportunities through Grow Smart for small business owners who want to go into early childhood education. They can get training, they can get credentials so that they can offer a quality service to our residents. And outside of the fantastic work that GrowSmart is doing, and Barb Lido, she's the director of that, so I want to shout her out. I've also been connecting with EVMS. So EVMS in Norfolk, they have, cross-city collaboration going on.
That's right.
That's right. That's how we gotta cross those city lines to make this stuff work. But EVMS, they have a program or an initiative called Minus 9 to 5, and it's an early childhood policy agenda. So their entire effort is to shape policy to promote a landscape where small businesses that tailor to working parents. So these are centers that offer early childhood education, or they're child care centers. How can we support those efforts as a part of our workforce development strategy? So if parents need to work, they need to make, and they want to make sure their children are okay. They need to make sure that they're in a safe place, a quality place, and an affordable place. And the conundrum with that is that safe, quality, and affordable often cost money. And what we want is to make sure we're not passing the cost off to parents who are working to pay for rent or pay for mortgage and food and clothing. Childcare is such an expensive bill for so many households. And so a passion project of mine has been trying to figure out as a city and even as a region, what can we do to support parents that don't want to pay so much money out of pocket, so as a workforce development strategy, because these parents have to go to work, and by them working, they're supporting our economy. But on the other side, these child care centers are businesses, and that's also economic development. When someone can open a business and offer a service and hire employees, and they could all make a living wage off of that. So it's a two-pronged workforce development strategy, but it centers around early childhood education and affordable childcare. That's something that I've been talking with folks at EVMS, talking with folks from GrowSmart and our economic development. And in just a few weeks, actually, I've invited them to come to City Council to brief my colleagues on what Virginia Beach is doing, but also to brief my colleagues on, hey, here are some things we could think about if we want to do even better. So that's going to be coming up maybe the end of this month, early September.
Wow. You and I talked prior to the show about how, my family owned a child care center for 21 years. And I mentioned how my father being a staple of our community, so many children in the immediate area community, our neighborhood, and extending out of our neighborhood, attended and came through our child care center, even from toddlers all the way up till they attended elementary school. And with that, sometimes I remember there were a lot of single mothers, and some of them couldn't afford to pay that week. And my father would say, oh, just pay me next week. But really what he was doing, he was writing it off, right? But right now with child care costs escalating so much, that how important is that affordability and access, just for families, not just to make ends meet, but also to pursue your careers.
That's right. And think about it. So for quality child care centers, and all of this it's it all, because I know you're the policy guy, right? So all of this it comes down to our policy choices. Early childhood is now, for good reason, has become professionalized. So now to be qualified to open a center and to be qualified to be hired as an early childhood educator, it's requiring more education. So now we have people who have credentials, maybe even up to a master's degree, if not only a bachelor's degree or an associate's, but they paid money to get a credential. So they're going to want to recoup that money back, right? It's like, hey, the more education I get, the more I should be paid for that. But then you're going into a service or to a field that is just historically and egregiously underfunded. So where is that money coming from? So what's happening, and I have a number of early child care centers in my district that I visited, and I've, read to the kids and talked to the business owners, and they mentioned, hey, we've had to close down one of our locations because we couldn't staff it. So it's not that we don't have the demand. We have kids to, fill two separate centers, but now we're operating only out of one because we can't find either qualified staff because they lack credentials, or we can't afford qualified staff because then we get them and we realize, oh, we want to keep the cost low for the parents, but to pay the staff what they're worth, there's a gap.
Yeah.
There's a gap in funding that. And so and it's not a secret. I didn't crack that code. This isn't something that people in this industry don't know. The issue is, what is the solution? And that's one of the passion projects that I've been picking up, is trying to think, at least at the local level in Virginia Beach, or regionally, what can we do? What does that look like? And I don't have the answer yet, but that's something I'm pursuing.
Absolutely. Like you said, it's an open secret, right? You know, we need to bridge this gap. And one of the things is what you're doing to bring attention to it is in the community and working with our great educational systems, you know, within Hampton Roads. You know, just as a side note, you know, as a fellow professor, don't we have some of the greatest educational institutions in Hampton Roads, just in the entire country? I mean,
absolutely.
I mean,
come on.
Hands down. I mean, from where they come from, Williamsburg all the way down to Virginia Beach.
Listen,
here.
We don't lack for incredible institutions and even more incredible professors.
That's it. That's right. So you heard it here first. So if you're looking to get a start, Norfolk State or Tidewater Community College, that's where.
There you go. Look, you start at Norfolk State, then you can transfer. We got all sorts of transfer agreements.
That's right.
So look, save your money, get your first couple years done at TCC, then transfer to Norfolk State, take Dr. Clavel's policy courses.
There you go. And you, too, can meet your spouse voting.
Yeah, there you go.
You know, so look, that is a great advertisement for going to vote as well. If you want to meet your special person, meet them at a polling station.
Listen, you never know what you're going to take away. Not only do you save democracy, not only do you have a voice in building power, you might meet your soulmate.
That's right.
You just never know. You never know.
You look, church, voting, and school, those are the best places, right? To me.
There you go. There you go.
You know, so, you know, we have a few moments left. You know, you've been on council since 2022. You've done a phenomenal, you hit the ground running. And the impact that you and, of course, your husband are making in this area, and soon the state, you know, and probably the nation as well, you know, is tremendous. We have a lot of aspiring minds and students here that want to get to that level. They say, hey, I've come to college. I want to run for office. I was inspired by first Black president. A lot of people now being inspired by the first nominee and possible the first woman and Black woman to be president of the United States. And also inspired by, you know, the new power couple of the area. What is one golden nugget that you would give our listeners, our students, that want to walk in these steps and pursue their passion in politics?
It's relationships. So for me, I thought about policy conceptually years before I even thought about running for office. And I only thought about running for office when I met someone who was running for office. So I think that it's very easy to feel connected in isolation with our phones and our devices, and we follow people on social media, or we check web pages and we're kind of informed. But I think if you want to get involved, you have to get in groups. You have to get in networks, in communities. So, you know, through my husband, I was able to get connected to. So whatever your political party, I happen to be with the Democrats. So the local Virginia Beach Democratic Party has a committee. Every city in Hampton Roads has organized groups in that way. If you're someone who's like, I don't know that I want to align with a party, Virginia Organizing is a nonpartisan, issues-based grassroots organization. They have chapters across Hampton Roads, and they meet and they do trainings and they talk about issues and they build power through collective grassroots movements. So it's not a Republican issue, it's not a Democrat issue, it's a Hampton Roads issue, and we're going to organize to fix it. So I think it's when you see it's getting involved in community and actually putting your body in a room with other people so much as you can. And that's where you learn, you see it firsthand. And I think there's nothing like it. I'm someone who reads, so I also recommend, I love biographies. So Ella Baker, I read about her at Virginia Wesleyan. I think that probably was an early contributor to the start of like justice and community organizing. Wow. She was a civil rights advocate and organizer. And I read about her when I was 19. Could have never thought over 10, I'm not even going to do the math because I don't want to feel as old as I think that's going to make me feel. But however many years later that would then turn into me working to organize things in my community. but it put a spark in me. So read, if you don't know quite what group to join yet, find a biography or an autobiography of someone who has tried to do something. So obviously Martin Luther King Jr., you've got the work of Ella Baker, you've got so many people who, or just read about a movement, civil rights movement, disability rights movement, LGBTQ movements, and learn what other people have done. So you might not even know where to start. So see where other people started and then maybe mimic what they did.
And soon the biography of Councilwoman Jennifer Rouse.
Sure.
Listen.
I'll add that to the list.
That's it. Look, I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I can't believe that we're out of time. But as always, listen, we got to have you back. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and you gave so many great stories and golden nuggets for our listeners, so we'll definitely have you back. And for you that are listening, we thank you for joining us here on State of the Water, as you always do, where we bring movers, shakers, and policymakers to you to discuss issues important to the community. Until next time, be good, be great, God bless, and we'll see you next week.
Hi, I'm Carrie Washington, and you're listening to State of the Water with award-winning host Dr. Eric Clavel.